When you think of Vikings, what comes to mind? Is it their iconic longships cutting through the icy North Atlantic? Or their reputation as fierce warriors and skilled traders? Maybe it's their mythology, filled with gods like Thor and Odin. Vikings have been a source of fascination and intrigue for centuries, and today we're going to delve into some of the most interesting stories from their past. We'll voyage across the ocean to the Americas, journey to the heart of the Byzantine Empire, and even delve into the world of the Viking slave trade. So, fasten your seatbelts, or should I say, secure your oars, as we set sail on this adventure into Viking history. And now, we've all been taught that Christopher Columbus discovered America, right? Well, that might not be the whole truth. In fact, there's a whole saga, quite literally, about Viking explorers reaching the American continent about 500 years before Columbus. This extraordinary tale begins with a Viking named Bjarni Herjolfsson, who was blown off course while sailing from Norway to Greenland and spotted a land that was not on any map. While he didn't land, his tales of this discovery inspired another explorer, Leif Erikson, to set out on his own expedition. Leif Erikson, the son of Eric the Red, who founded the first Viking settlements in Greenland, embarked on a journey westward from Greenland. He first landed in a rocky, barren place he named Helluland, believed to be modern-day Baffin Island. From there, he ventured further to a forested area he called Markland, likely Labrador in present-day Canada. But it's his final stop that's most intriguing. Erikson and his crew came upon a place with fertile land, plentiful timber, and a climate milder than they were used to. They called it Vinland, or Wineland, likely because of the wild grapes they found. Today, most historians agree that Vinland was probably located in what is now Newfoundland, Canada. This site, known as Lance aux Meadows, was excavated in the 1960s, and the remains of Viking buildings were discovered, providing the first archaeological proof of Europeans reaching the American continent. So, while we may think of Columbus Day as a celebration of the discovery of America, perhaps we should also give a nod to Leif Erikson, who appears to have beaten Columbus to the punch by about half a millennium. That's quite a twist in our understanding of history, isn't it? We've all heard of Viking Longships, right? These iconic vessels with their dragon-headed prows cutting through the icy waves of the North Sea are nothing short of an engineering marvel, especially when you consider the time period. But let's dive a little deeper into what made these ships so extraordinary. The Vikings were master shipbuilders, and their longships were a testament to their skill and ingenuity. These ships, often reaching up to 75 feet in length, were primarily built from oak, which provided both durability and flexibility. What's remarkable about their design is the shallow draft hull. This allowed them to navigate not only the open ocean but also to travel up shallow rivers, effectively turning landlocked cities into coastal targets. Imagine seeing a fleet of Viking ships coming up your local river. Quite the terrifying sight. What's more, the symmetry of the longship design meant that they could easily reverse direction without having to physically turn around, a tactical advantage in both exploratory voyages and warfare. The ships were propelled by both oars and a single large square sail. The sail was typically striped, with the colours representing the particular Viking clan. When the ships were in battle, the sail would be taken down so it wouldn't obstruct the view of the Vikings on board. But it's not all about warfare and raiding. These ships were also the primary method for trade, exploration, and even colonization. The same ships that would bring terror to coastal towns in Europe would also be used to establish settlements in distant lands, from the icy shores of Greenland to the verdant meadows of Vinland. So, when we think of the Vikings, it's not just the horned helmets and battle axes that should come to mind, but also these impressive ships. These longships weren't just a means of transport, they were a symbol of the Viking spirit, adventurous, fearless, and unstoppable. Truly, without their ships, the Vikings would not have made the far-reaching impact they did on the world. As we peel back the layers of Viking history, we come across some unsettling truths. For instance, the Vikings were heavily involved in the slave trade, but these weren't just any slaves. They were called thralls in Old Norse, and they were considered property, much like other commodities of the time. The thralls came from all walks of life. They were prisoners of war, debtors, or simply individuals who had been kidnapped during Viking raids. These raids weren't only for plundering gold or silver. They were also for capturing people, who would then be sold in the bustling slave markets across the Viking world and beyond. Life as a thrall was undeniably harsh. They were subjected to hard labor, often working in the fields, homes, or workshops of their Viking masters. They had no personal rights and were completely at the mercy of their owners. However, it's also important to mention that the children of thralls were not automatically considered thralls themselves. They could, under certain circumstances, gain their freedom. But the Viking slave trade didn't just serve the internal needs of their society. It was an integral part of their economy, connecting them to the broader world. Thralls were often traded for other goods or even for silver in places like Dublin or in the bustling markets of the Islamic Caliphate. The role of the Vikings in the slave trade provides a sobering contrast to the heroic and adventurous image we often associate with them. It serves as a reminder that history, much like the people it studies, is multifaceted, and even societies that have left us with marvels of exploration and craftsmanship can also leave behind darker legacies. As we delve deeper into the world of the Vikings, it's important to keep this complexity in mind. It might seem strange to think that Viking warriors, known for their fierce independence and seafaring skills, would end up in Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire. But history is full of surprising twists and turns, and this is one of them. In the 10th century, the Byzantine emperor, seeking to bolster his personal guard, invited Norse warriors to join his ranks. This unit would become known as the Varangian Guard, and it was composed primarily of men from Scandinavia and later from England. The Varangian Guard had a reputation for loyalty, bravery, and martial prowess, making them the perfect bodyguards for the Byzantine emperors. They were not only defenders of the emperor, but also active participants in Byzantine military campaigns. This interaction led to a fusion of cultures, with Viking runic graffiti found in the Hagia Sophia, the Grand Cathedral of Constantinople, alongside Christian symbols. And moreover, the Guard served as a sort of military elite, a status symbol for the emperor. They imagined burly, axe-wielding Vikings standing sentinel in the opulent halls of the Byzantine palace, a testament to the emperor's power and reach. However, it wasn't just about military prowess. The Vikings who travelled to Constantinople, and those who served in the Varangian Guard, played a significant role in establishing trade routes between the Norse world and the Byzantine Empire, leading to a rich cultural exchange. The story of the Varangian Guard underscores the Vikings' far-reaching influence and the fluidity of cultural and political alliances in the ancient world. It serves as a testament to the complex and intertwined nature of history. The Vikings, often viewed as pillagers and invaders, were also explorers, traders, and even imperial guards in the heart of one of history's most powerful empires. It's yet another surprising chapter in the saga of the Vikings. When we think of Vikings, we often picture burly men with long beards and horned helmets. But did you know that some of the most feared Viking warriors were women? Known as Shield Maidens, these women stood alongside their male counterparts in battle, a departure from the gender norms of many other societies of the time. The concept of the Shield Maiden is steeped in Norse mythology. The Valkyries, warrior maidens who served Odin, are perhaps the most famous. They decided who would die in battle and who would be taken to Valhalla, the hall of fallen warriors. But Shield Maidens were not mere myth. Historical and archaeological evidence points to their existence and role in Viking society. One of the most famous Shield Maidens was Lagertha, wife of the legendary Viking hero Ragnar Lothbrok. According to the sagas, Lagertha was a fierce and formidable warrior. She fought in battles, led men, and was known for her bravery and skill. In 2017, archaeologists discovered a Viking warrior's grave in Birka, Sweden. The grave, filled with weapons, 2 horses, and gaming pieces, suggested a high-ranking warrior. For a long time, it was assumed that the skeleton was male. However, DNA testing revealed that the warrior was in fact a woman. This discovery challenged long-held assumptions about gender roles in Viking society and provided compelling evidence of the existence of female Viking warriors. The role of Shield Maidens in Viking society was not just about their ability to fight. It reflected a certain level of gender equality in Viking society, at least in comparison to other societies of the time. Women could own property, initiate divorces, and even become merchants. The existence of Shield Maidens shows us that Viking society was complex, and their role was not just confined to the home, but extended to the battlefield. The tales of these Viking women warriors, these Shield Maidens, serve to broaden our understanding of Viking society. They remind us that history is full of surprises, and the roles we often take for granted were not always so clear-cut. In the end, the story of the Shield Maidens is a story of courage, strength, and defying expectations. And that's a story worth telling. When we talk about Vikings, we often focus on their golden era, the time of raiding, exploring, and trading. But like all great epochs in history, the Viking Age had to come to an end. So what exactly led to the decline of this powerful seafaring civilization? Many factors contributed to the end of the Viking Age, and it wasn't a sudden, abrupt stop. Instead, it was a gradual process that took place over several decades, beginning in the late 11th century. One of the key factors was the emergence of centralized kingdoms in Scandinavia. As these kingdoms consolidated their power, they started to control the Viking raids. The kings, wanting to maintain power and stability, discouraged the violent and disruptive raids that had characterized the Viking Age. A second significant factor was the spread of Christianity throughout Scandinavia. The Vikings had long held on to their Norse beliefs and pagan rituals. However, with increasing contact with Christian Europe, through trade, conquest, and diplomacy, Christianity began to take root. Christian kings and leaders often sought to end the practice of raiding, seeing it as incompatible with their new faith. Over time, the conversion to Christianity played a significant role in calming the Viking spirit of adventure and aggression. Thirdly, the climatic conditions, which had been favorable for the Viking lifestyle, began to change. The medieval warm period, which had allowed for the expansion of settlements in places like Greenland, started to wane. This climatic downturn made farming more challenging and may have reduced the opportunities for exploration and settlement. Lastly, by the late 11th century, the regions that the Vikings had targeted, Europe, the British Isles, had become more fortified and better prepared to defend against Viking attacks. The targets of Viking raids had learned how to resist and retaliate. In essence, the end of the Viking Age wasn't marked by a single defining event. It was the result of many converging factors, political, religious, environmental, and social, that together signaled the closing of this remarkable chapter in human history. But while the Viking Age may have ended, the influence and legacy of the Vikings continue to be felt and discovered even today. And as always, thanks for watching.